Kia ora. Excuse me, good morning. So I've just had my breakfast, so I apologise for any googling sounds. Before I begin, I forgot to say, in regards to the dream that I had, the blood on his hands dream, the dream actually started with me sitting on the wharipaku, sitting on the toilet, doing so much poop that I was so impressed at how much poop I'd done that I showed this man how much poop I'd done. Because it was like so much that it was coming up out of the bowl. I know it's not a very prim and proper thing to talk about, but poop means unexpected windfall. Or if you're expecting money, like I've known for years I'm about to win this court case, it's more money than you're expecting. To dream of poop. But the fact that it was in the toilet means that this windfall is going to enable a release of stress, a release of worry, because toilets generally mean, to release everything you're holding in, to release your stress, to release your worry, or whatever it is that you're dealing with. It's the release. To dream of doing a number one, to take a pee, it means a release of all your stress and tension. But with a number two, with poopers in the toilet, or I mean, poop in general is unexpected windfall, but a poop in the toilet is a release of the tension, bringing an unexpected windfall. Or if you are expecting a windfall, like, well, I wouldn't call it a windfall, I'd call it justice. It's more than you're expecting. So I just needed to put that out there because that's actually how the dream started. So the fact that it was all to do with Keir Starmer, people turning their backs on each other, Russia, Ukraine, all of that sort of thing, my windfall's got something to do with me being locked up, my racial discrimination, my human rights violations on British soil. That's the poop in that, and Keir Starmer was in it, so he would be symbolic of that. But whatever is happening with him and the people that were stabbing each other on the street and all that is got nothing to do with me. So now on to the actual real reason for this video. I watched Scary Mysteries yesterday, and I was too busy dealing with all the other stuff to make the video, so I thought I'd just sit on it for a bit. And now I've re-listened to it, having my breakfast. I thought, okay, now's the time. So Scary Mysteries, it was 5 stories of people talking about the Skinwalker Ranch, and doppelgangers and shadow folks and, haunted houses and that. And by the time I got to story number 3, I was like, I've already made videos about this. So if you click on the links in the description box below, so I don't have to rattle on about everything in this video, just click on the links in the description box below, and it's going to explain everything that they were trying to figure out in the latest Scary Mysteries. The link to the latest Scary Mysteries is also there. So I'm just going to do a quick rundown. So in story number 1, it was about the 2 sisters where the girl arrives home and sees her sister in the garage emptying the garbage cans or something, and when the older sister turns around and sees the younger sister, she freaks out like she's seen a ghost. And then she's like, you're only just getting home. And the sister is like, yeah, why? And she said, because you were just up in my room. And then she recounts this tale about how she was in her room doing schoolwork, and the door opens and her little sister walks in and says, can you turn the music down? And the older sister says, yeah, sure. You're fine to do it. So the girl walks over, the younger sister walks over, turns the radio down and walks out. And then a couple of hours later, or like moments whenever later, the younger sister actually gets off the school bus. And she's like, but how can you just be getting home if you just came into my room and turned the music down? They went upstairs, the radio was still turned down, and they were freaked out. Apparently it never happened again, though they would hear sounds, you know, people talking and blah, blah, blah. So that's a time slip. And it's not paranormal, it's supernatural, because when it's supernatural, it's defying the laws of physics. And the supernatural is the realms of faith and physics. The paranormal is psychology and society, right? It's all to do with societal perception and the strength of the psychological mind. So time slips are when, well, time slips. Like, she wasn't a ghost. She was very much real. And they would have been living in completely different time spaces, but where their times converged, where they had perfect interaction with each other. That's a time slip. That's commonly what's referred to as a haunting. But it's not a haunting. It's very real. The person is very much alive. The person is very much there in the physical, as are you. But your times converge and they slip. It's like one car. It's like two cars on the highway, and one turns and passes through the other, and comes out the other side. But everyone inside the car is perfectly aware of each other as one car slips through the other, like it's invisible, but it is very much physical, and that's a time slip. And it's basically when there's fluctuations in the nebula. When nebulas fluctuate, the only way I can describe it, it's like, you know, when a carpenter is laying carpet and he has that hammer thing on his knee and he uses it to push the carpet like into the skirting boards to push it so that it lays the carpet flat. That's what a nebula does. Now, if this is a common reoccurrence, if they're hearing voices, if they, you know, hear footsteps and stuff like that, one of the first things you want to do is look to see where, like, if they can remember the exact date of when this happened, were there any comets or meteor showers leading up to the event? Were there any ley lines? Is the house near any water? Because ley lines can react to comets and meteor showers, because they're so charged with electricity and magnetic. They can mess with tides, they can mess with animals. You know, if animals suddenly start acting a bit weird in that, look to see if there's a comet or a meteor shower coming or has been, because comets and meteor showers can interfere with the electrostatic of the electrostatic magnetism of ley lines, which then affect animals, and also water. Water is highly, highly conductive with energy in that. So if they live near water, when the timing is right and the comets and meteors are passing by, or the nebula is fluctuating in a way that stretches time, it can interfere with the Schumann resonance and the electromagnetic frequency that protects the Earth as it's flying through space. And we, as, you know, atomic beings, our central nervous system picks up on that. Remember, I was talking about electrogenesis and electroreceptivity. The electroreceptacle part of our brains can react to those sort of invisible fluctuations and creates time slips. So always look to see if there's been any comets or meteor showers within 7 days before the event or is about to happen, because we will pick up on it before they're flying past, you know, because we become like biometric antenna. If the animals are acting weird, if you buy ley lines or buy water, because ley lines will react and so will water. And even if there's no comets or meteor showers, if you're by water or ley lines, they can interfere with the fluctuations of the electromagnetism that is floating about in the ion particles of your biorhythmic parameter, your personal space, right? So that's what a time slip is. and it's not paranormal at all. It's supernatural. And when it happens, instead of being scared and calling in psychics and mediums and that, just be like, oh my God, that was so friggin' cool, because you've been a part of something that is very rare, but is proof of how powerful the mind is, and how connected we are to the evolving atomic frequency of our beautiful universe. It's not paranormal at all. Paranormal makes you go, ugh! The supernatural makes you go, whoa! So there's a big difference. But you go, ugh, with the paranormal because you don't understand what's going on. So, and once you understand what the paranormal is, and you work with that, you never experience it again. You never find anything scary again. Because, like I keep saying, the paranormal is all in your head, the supernatural is all in your knowledge. Baha, or all in your face. Now, excuse me, I'm going to burp. Oh, sorry, I'm still regurgitating. Oh, God. And there's no retrograde either. It's because I'm trying to get everything out, I think. I get so excited when I talk about what I love. I love to talk about what I love. I love to talk about what I know that I think I'm messing up because I'm jumping 10 steps ahead of myself. So number 2, the haunted house in Pittsburgh. Now, this was a man who bought a house where they had told him that the Catholic Church had done a blessing in the home just before he bought it, which should have raised red flags there. But this is an amalgamation of a lot of things, and again, I would want to know if there were any ley lines near the house or any water. What I can tell you is that it sounds like there was some time bend stuff going on, where which would be classic ghosts, what we would call ghosts. You know, where you see things and you hear things and that, but they don't necessarily interact, though they scare the crap out of you. That's a time bend, not a time slip. And again, I've explained the difference between a time bend and a time slip in the link in the description box below. But it is basically like where 2 points in time come together at once, but they don't quite touch. Whereas with a time slip, they pass through each other. A time bend is more that they come face to face but don't touch. But then the interesting thing is that they started smelling sulfur, which is usually in Catholic terms like a sign of, you know, the devil. My mum used to say when you smell sulfur, it's the calling card of the devil. And then they found it was never tested what quote unquote appeared to look like blood. And when they painted over it, it kept reappearing. Now, I'm always wary of this sort of thing because it was a very old house where they would have had a lot of iron and copper built in this house. And where you have iron and copper, especially like wrought iron and copper, which they would have absolutely had in those days, they have a propensity to leak. And when they leak, it looks like blood. And it can keep reappearing if the problem hasn't been fixed. Copper, iron, steel, they can leak when they rust, and it can also give off that smell. If you've ever smelt burnt copper, it smells like sulfur. So there are some metals when they burn, there's some metals when they burn, it smells like sulfur. It can give off that, you know, and iron and rust and that has that strong kind of blood metallic smell to it. But the interesting thing is that the mental health of the mother and one of the sons got really bad, and the more they tried to fix it, the worse the activity got, which says to me, see, the wife didn't want to buy the house in the first place. She said it felt wrong. So she was against buying the house in the first place. And then, you know, the son having these experiences when he was wee, it already set off the trigger for a psychological breakdown before, you know, they even really got to settle in the house. So I would diagnose it as is self-induced psychosis, manifesting paranormal activity due to the mental instabilities of the people living in the house, and the little boy picked up on it. As well as, you know, with a house that old, it's going to record things and play it back, isn't it? So you very rarely have paranormal activity in a new build unless there's something connected to the soil. They tried to say, you know, oh, it's because Native Americans killed people on the land and blah, blah, blah. No, don't do that. It's trying to come up with answers where there's no basis in scientific fact. I think this is a case of paranormal psychosis, dissension psychosis, the deterioration of the psychological mind amplified the activity. And the mother had already made up her mind she didn't like the house before she moved in it. So that could have been a trigger for a lot of the stuff. And I'm not saying that they're bad people or anything like that. I'm just saying that people need to know how powerful the mind is. And we can create kinetic energy and manifest our darkness and our displeasure and our depression and our unhappiness in our own physical reality and not even realise we're doing it. And then, of course, the dead get the blame. But that's why I'm an occult physicist, and that's why I'll be making my shows and all of that. So I can go around doing these investigations and, you know, do our kids' version as well, paranormal PIs, and explain it all so people can just chill and relax. You know, it will kill off a lot of paranormal assumption, because we'd be dealing with paranormal fact. And then I can show the people in the houses and that how to heal, how to leave their baggage at the door and release it and all that, so that they're not dealing with these situations anymore. So, number 3, the Shadow Man, Montreal. The woman who was, for the most part, seen the Shadow Man standing in the corner, but he never had any interaction with her until she moved out of the house and woke up one day and he was breathing down her neck and blah, blah, blah. Well, and again, I've got a video that explains all of this. What people need to understand is that we have guardians. And these guardians, whether it is you can call them spirit elders, you can call them your ancestors, you can call them your soul, your conscious being, but we all have guardians who watch over us in times of danger or ill health, or where we're needing protection because we might be under threat of psychic attack, or ill health, or we're in danger of dying in our sleep. And so they come and they watch over us. And what you need to figure out is, normally, not exclusively, but predominantly, you'll always see them, whether it is a shadow person with a face, without a face, an animal, you know, a shapeshifter, a dark cloud, whatever. Usually the more visible the form, like if you can make out it's a cat, or if you can make out it's a person, if you can see their face, the stronger the threat, and they're needing to get your attention. But when it's like a dark mass, or the shape of something, or it's just like a floating mass, it's an alert to get you to pay attention, so that your central nervous system, so that it wakes up your brain, so that you pay attention to what's going on, because it's important you pay attention, but you might not necessarily be in danger. But you will always usually experience them when you're really tired, when you're about to go to sleep, or you are asleep and get woken up with it, because as your body starts to relax, you're more prone to be the victim of psychic attacks and that. When people know you're asleep, they'll try and send you things in your sleep, and you can die of heart attacks in your sleep. I call them docking issues. Again, I have a video that explains it, but if you're asleep and you wake up with sleep paralysis and your mind is functioning but your body can't move, and then you see something dark or scary right up against your face, screaming at you, sitting on you, looking absolutely terrifying, it's to scare the shit out of you enough that you wake up, because you were on the brink of death. And so desperate times call for desperate measures, and they have to jump in and wake you up before something really bad happens that you might not wake up from, or that if you do wake up, you end up being haunted by dark thoughts, depression, i.e. psychic attack. And what people need to understand, which is important because of number 4 on the list, is that our governments and the military have access to your minds when you're asleep, especially now with things like broadband and Wi-Fi and Grok and social media and all that, where they can feed information in your head. If you hear radios in your brain, that's been diagnosed as a mental illness, but the CIA have proven it's actually a military experiment. And then, of course, when Elon Musk comes along, now if my phone cuts out, you're going to know, with his Neuralink to your brain chips, and those Google watches that can read your rhythm and your hearts and all that, they can use that technology to tell you what to think and what to feel, make you think you're going nuts. They can get inside your head while you're asleep. And they say if you think of someone before you go to sleep, they're dreaming of you. But if you wake up thinking about someone, if you wake up thinking about someone, they were dreaming of you. If you go to sleep and dream about someone, they were thinking about you before you went to sleep. They've tapped into that. But in this case, because the thing is, they want people believing this stuff. They need people to believe that the paranormal is real, so that they can get away with tricking people into thinking that UFOs are real. And that, we're under threat of invasion and wars. And, when they put this stuff out about, we're going to war and we're going to starve you and we're going to... It's to get inside your head so that they can then manifest it. But none of it's real. They don't, the 6 most powerful words in the universe: you have no power over me. If you say that before you go to sleep, if you say it when you wake up, if you say it all the time, nobody can get inside your head. You have to give them permission. And because nobody's going to give them permission to do these experiments on you willingly, knowing that they could make you do horrendous things out in the world, like Southport and all of that, they get you while you're asleep, or they get you when you're on medications, or they get you when you're sick. So we have protectors, we have ancestors, angels, call them what you like. But they will take on whatever form they have to in order to wake you up, keep you alert, and keep you alive. So don't be afraid of them. Be thankful. If you have these experiences with them, be thankful. Give thanks to them. Now, the mother said after the girl moved out, she heard the crying. And then when she said, she's moved out, blah, 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 and then the crying stopped, that wasn't an entity. That was the mother missing the daughter, and it was manifesting as disembodied crying. The mother was missing her kid because the kid had moved out, empty nest syndrome. So she manifested it. And then, of course, the girl started seeing it again, and she said this time it was coming up to her face and breathing down her neck. She was waking up with it, and then it was taking on forms of shadows and cats and all that sort of thing. So the fact that it was then waking her up means that she was having docking issues. As her mind was starting to wake up, her body was frozen because her soul hadn't landed properly back into her body. So, just having a drink of water. So that's when they come in and take over by scaring the crap out of you because they know you're consciously aware of them. So, what else? Yeah, so sleepwalking is when the body's awake, but the mind isn't. The mind is living the dream. The mind is living whatever it is spirit is experiencing in the dream. And whatever they're experiencing in the dream is very real because we time travel, we travel through time and space when we sleep. We can live past lives, future lives, because time exists simultaneously all at once. We have access to that when we sleep. So whatever they're going through when they're sleepwalking is very real. They could be living out a past life. They could be living out a future life. They could be living out, a premonition sort of thing. But sleep paralysis is when the mind is awake but the body's paralyzed. But either way, the soul has gone off to wander, or the consciousness has gone off to wander to do its thing, to recharge its battery so that our bodies can rest and recover. We need sleep. We absolutely need sleep. We need to recharge our batteries. And our soul or our spirits, our consciousness needs to clock off and go back home in order to do what it has to do as a force of atomic consciousness. But it's always watching over the body, and the second the body shows any signs of distress, the soul comes charging back into the body, or the consciousness comes charging back into the body, and that's when you'll get woken up with the sort of thing, or being scared alive, because it has to do whatever it has to do to wake you up as fast as possible. And if that means taking on something scary or demonic looking that's going to scare the bejesus out of you, it's going to do it because it's not your time yet. So you will have things that will watch over you when you're... What I would like to know, firstly, see with the dark shadow she was seeing, I would want to know, was it summertime? Did she have windows open? Was it pockets of... Because not everything is paranormal or supernatural. Some of it is to do with weather fluctuations and whether the house has held on to pockets of air or pockets of heat. And sometimes, if there's the right kind of gases and fluctuations in the ion particles of the atmosphere, they can manifest as visual things. Like when you see heat waves coming off the footpath when it's hot, or when you breathe in the cold and you see the steam coming out of your mouth. If it was super cold and she had the heating on, if it was super hot and she had the air conditioning on, if it was hot and she had the windows open, if it was cold and she didn't have any heating on, these pockets of air can collect and move about and even pick up on things like, the gases, when you've been cooking, like the steam that comes off cooking, it all gathers and collects and can look like physical objects. Just like we all know that that we shed our cells, but we don't really see how polluted the air is until we see how much dust there is around our house, because our dust is made up of our shed skin and the cells that we've shed, as well as the pollutants from outside. But you don't know any of it's there until the two of them connect together magnetically like on a, how do I put it? When the two of them join atomic forces, they create the structure that is dust. And dust is made up of everything from not just shed human skin and human cells and the pollutants and that from outside, but also like dead flies and, you know, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, that sort of thing. But it all draws together magnetically to form the structure of dust. Well, that's the same thing when sometimes when you'll see like gas moving past or a black shadow, you know, hovering about and moving about, it can be that. It could be the gases and the heat and the cold and the, you know, the steam and that coming off the cooking. If you've been frying anything, those particles have to go somewhere when the heat is, you know, coming off the food as the molecular structure of the heat and that is changing the texture of the food as it's cooking it. All of that hovers around in the atmosphere, which is why, you know, when people say, oh my God, I love the smells coming out of your flat, those smells of everything I've been cooking and baking hover, and they can gather and collect with other things to create dust. Now, some of the dust that I have in my house, if you put it under a microscope, it might have particles from things that I baked weeks before. It might have like olive oil or coconut oil or lard particles. Do you know what I mean? So that can be the same thing. However, I think in this case, I mean, it could be one or the other, or it could be a mixture of both. But what I would want to know is what was she going through in her life, mentally, emotionally, or physically, like health wise, mentally, emotionally, that she was needing protection. I'm more interested to find out what was happening in her life as to why he's there with her. Does she have mental health issues? Like, has she, was she going through, like, were her parents divorcing? Was she going through a lot at school? Like, what was going on in her life? Was her health okay? Is her heart okay? Does she have heart issues she doesn't know about? That's what I'd want to know. When I go get called to these houses, when I make my show, these are the questions I'll be asking. I would be looking at burial grounds and curses and that last. But I'll have answers for them. I'll be able to give them answers. And I can guarantee you that once I hand them those answers, they'll be able to stop what's happening to them, or at least not be afraid of what's happening to them, because then they'll understand. Because he was standing back at first, and then the second she moved out, he came close. He wanted her to know he was there. And I want to know why. And I'm not going to know, because I don't know this lady. And I think these were stories off Reddit and stuff, so I don't know. But I'd be interested to find out. And when I get out of here and make my shows, and I'm called to these people's houses to investigate these paranormal activities and that, I'll have an answer for them, like pretty much. Excuse me. I can guarantee you that most of these houses that I get called to with these people, I'll probably only need to be there for an hour, and I won't even need to investigate much, because I'll just be able to tell them the answer, like there and then, without having to set up anything. Or they can be directed to my radio show, where they can ring up and say, this is going on, what's happening, and then I can tell them, and then everybody listening to the radio station will know the answer, so they'll have the answer themselves. But I would like to go and do investigations in some of these houses. Absolutely. There's prisons and hospitals, sanitariums, all of that, old schools, morgues that, you know, were hotels, and I'd love to do these investigations and set up cameras and show people how to do it the right way, but teach them the difference between the paranormal and the supernatural. So, number 4, the situation in Utah, the Skinwalker Ranch, it's all the Mandela effect. Anything that involves the government or the military, where people are seeing UFOs, where people are, it's like, look, it's all the Mandela effect. They were testing the Mandela effect, and they always use scientists, police officers, army people as witnesses, because it gives more credibility to the fact that they're basically experimenting on the human mind. Again, there is a video explaining the Skinwalker Ranch. I knew what it was the second I tapped into the video. It's all the Mandela effect. That's all it is. And the Mandela effect is why most people think that they have aliens coming to visit them, to take them away as well. Because they're sick. But remember the big freeze, when I said about how Great Britain was using the Mandela effect to help the CIA get away with the assassination of JFK? It's all the same thing. It's all that they mess with the power of the mind, and they give it credibility, and it's all done to scare the crap out of people so that people don't understand what the hell's going on. They want people to believe this stuff is real. That's one of the reasons why they try to shut me down and shut me up. Because I'm telling the truth about what it really is. And when you know the level of control that they try to have, you walk away from it, you become aware of it, and then they can no longer control you. The belief in the fear, the power they have over you is in the belief that the fear they have, the power that they have over you is in the belief of the fear that they use to control you. They have no power over you. You have to give them power. It's like with God and Jesus and the devil and vampires. They can't come in unless you invite them in. So I teach people how to shut them out, shut it all out. And they use the paranormal industry to do it. That's why they tried to stop me from having my shows in that, because they knew that when I came along and explained the difference between the paranormal and the supernatural, that's pretty much most of the government and military mind control experiments shut down there and then. People will switch off their broadbands and Wi-Fi's and go outside again. People will start protesting and demanding resignations of their presidents and prime ministers. People will start dragging people like Bill Gates and the Palantir folk to the courts, because then they'll be woken up. And that's what they don't want. They want everybody asleep and compliant. And my science wakes everybody up and not only educates them, but gives them the power to control their own mind and make their own decisions according to their level of morality and ethics. So there's a lot of reasons as to why it was in their best interest to shut me up or kill me. But God was like, nah. Number 5, man at the foot of the bed. Like I said, every time you're asleep and you wake up and you see something standing at your bed, it's for good reason. And it's all in the description box below. I've got all the videos there explaining between the difference between time bends and time slips. The 2 cases of the Mandela effect, as in the big freeze video and with JFK, and the Skinwalker one, and the sleep paralysis, why you feel someone standing at the foot of your bed when you're asleep. And it can happen, you can pick up on them just before you're about to go to sleep, as your body's getting tired, you know, before you're about to take a nap in the afternoon. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything that happens at night, but it happens when your body's starting to wind down because it needs to go into sleep mode or stasis. When our conscience needs a break, it turns our body into a suspended animation, sleep stasis. So, and that's irrespective of whether it's nighttime or not. But yeah, always, whenever some of this stuff happens, especially like in the case of time slips, always look to see if there's been a comet or a meteor shower, or there's about to be one that's happened, and if your property is near ley lines or water, even if it's underground streams, because they are conductors for electromagnetic fluctuations that can absolutely send signals to the brain that our bodies react to. Right, so that's that explained. So there we go. I can't wait to make my shows. I could talk about my work all day. That's why I had to turn it into an empire, because I love the occult. I love talking about the science of the paranormal and the supernatural so much, and it's going to heal so many people from perceived mental illnesses when they realise that they're conduits for supernatural activity. They'll suddenly become less afraid of what they're experiencing, and it'll get them off these medications and put a lot of doctors out of business. Once I get my radio show and TV show out there, there will be a lot of people no longer needing therapists or counselling or shrinks or medication. I can guarantee you that. They won't need psychics and mediums and paranormal investigators either. So anyway, see that house in Philadelphia? No, Pittsburgh, sorry, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. With the husband and with the mother and son that started having mental health issues, they took a lot of what they believed was happening based on a Catholic intuitive. So this Catholic intuitive came along and said, oh, I think this is what it was, and then they believed it even though there was no factual evidence to back up the claims. And that's why I'm here, because I'm going to put a lot of these fakes and frauds out of business, because they are responsible for a lot of misunderstood paranormal activity, and cause a lot of the mental health problems, because they instill fear into people through their lack of knowledge. But that's what I'm here for. So a lot of people have a lot of reasons to hate me, but I don't care, because it's my job to wake the planet up. Chop, chop, come on, let's do this. Then we can get rid of the old world and bring in the new. And the new world is way cooler than anything we've ever lived before. But we all have to wake up together. We all have to know our strength and our power as one. It's synergy. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts, people. So anyway, I'm going to go. I shall speak to you later. Ka kite, anō. Mwah.